Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Namaste, Sapaijanalai. It's a great pleasure to have such an extraordinary group of leaders today in this meeting. And I'm not aware of such gathering in Nepal for a while. My name is Rakesh Karna, and I'm from Center for Policy Studies and Governance, a co-organizer with the Club de Madrid and the Share Society project in particular. Um, Before we begin, let me just share some logistics and then we go from there. So for the audience, if you see the screen, you have a simultaneous language option here. So in here, you see a tab called interpretation. If you click there, you have three options. One is for English, if you want to hear in English, or the other one is for in Nepali. And the third one is the original audio, where you don't hear any interpretation, but just the speaker in the screen. And then for the audience who is joining today, or anyone, there is a Q&A tab where you can put your question so that we can respond as we go with the meeting. So let me repeat that in Nepali as well. So हजुरहरूले तलको स्क्रिनको तल हेर्नुभयो भने त्यहाँ
If you
इन्टरप्रिटेसन
would
भन्ने
look
एउटा
at
ट्याब
the
छ
bottom of the screen, there is a interpretation
त्यो
tab,
ट्याबमा
and in
हजुरको
that
चाहिँ
tab,
तीनवटा अप्सन छ
there are
एउटा
three
इङ्ग्लिस
options. One is
एउटा
English,
नेपाली एउटा ओरिजिनल
another
सो
is
इङ्ग्लिस
Nepali,
सुन्नु मन
and
छ भने
the third is
इङ्ग्लिसमा
original. If you
नेपाली
like to
सुन्न
hear
मन छ
in
भने
English,
नेपालीमा
then please choose
अनि
English. If you like
यदि
to listen in Nepali,
इन्टरप्रिटेसन
then
चाहिँदैन भने
in
हजुरले
Nepali.
ओरिजिनल
If you do
सिलेक्ट
not
गर्ने त्यसमा स्क्रिनमा
need
जो
an
भइरहेछ
interpretation,
त्यो मात्र
then
हजुरले
please
सुन्न
select
त्यस्तै
original, and
Q&A
whatever
भन्ने ट्याब
language
छ त्यहाँ
the original is
जिज्ञासा छ
spoken,
भने
you can
राख्न
hear
सक्नुहुन्छ अनि यो
the
कार्यक्रमको
speaker,
दौरानमा हामी त्यसलाई सेयर गर्छौँ
and you can
सो सबैजनालाई
give
धेरै
any
धन्यवाद
response. So we will
I'd like
address
to
at the
invite
end.
my esteemed colleague Ruben Campos, who is the director of program at the Club de Madrid, to welcome and share the objective of this important event. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rakesh, and I'm very welcome to all participants to this Share Societies project in Nepal, inclusive implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals in the country. This is a multi-stakeholder dialogue forum that the Club de Madrid is very honored to share and to co-facilitate with the Center for Policy Studies and Governance, in which our colleague Rakesh Karna is the executive director. We have been working in the country with this center for a number of years already, and our focus has been always in to facilitate this kind of dialogues to promote sustainable development goals, inclusive implementation in the country. The Club de Madrid, if you are not familiar with the organization, is an NGO, a global NGO, whose members are former presidents and prime ministers from democratic countries from all over the world. We have the privilege today to count on one of our members' participation, Prime Minister Löfven from Sweden. He is a very distinguished politician at the national level, but also at the international, including, and this is the reason we have invited him, in the UN. He has been very active in many different roles, of course, during his time in government, but afterwards, he has been co-chairing the high-level advisory board for effective multilateralism convened by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in recent times, for example. So the purpose for this dialogue forum is to provide an inclusive platform to representatives at federal, provincial, and local levels in Nepal, in addition to some government official and civil society leaders, to share their views, their perspectives on SDGs development and implementation in the country, and facilitate political dialogue with the purpose of trying to obtain further commitment of the participant leaders and other stakeholders involved in the process for this process of inclusive implementation. We have developed with the leadership of Mr. Rakesh Karna a small survey of what is the situation in this matter. He will present very soon, and we hope this is an interesting contribution to the process in the country. So with that, and welcoming again, especially Prime Minister Lofen, Nepalese political and civil society leaders who have joined us today, but all general participants, I would like to pass the floor for the facilitation of the meeting to Rakesh.
Thank you, Ruben. What a great background. Thank you. Appreciate all that. It's a great pleasure. This is perhaps the fourth meeting we are hosting in last 3 years. So this is a continuation of making sure that we all are connected to this important agenda as we move forward. So today's format is I'll share the assessment, then I'll invite Mr. Prime Minister to share his experiences in terms of working on SDG or common agenda in a multilateral society, a multicultural society. Then we have four esteemed panelists representing the country, Nepal, from different landscape, followed by we have five distinguished leaders from different sectors, civil society, government, federal and local governments, followed by a question and answer from us, among us, and from the audiences. And then we have Mr. Prime Minister giving the final remarks, and then Ruben will close down. So we aim to close this down, complete the meeting by 3:30 Nepal time. So we try to stick to the time. And for the sake of everyone's time and deliberation and making sure everyone's voice is heard, I would be having a very interesting job of a timekeeper as well. So please bear with me, and my apologies in advance if I request you to cut short your important presentation. And also for the sake of this meeting, given the majority of participants are from Nepal, um, I would suggest everyone to speak a bit slowly so that the interpretation can properly be taken care of. Else, if we speak fast, then we may lose some of the important deliverables. With that, I like to, before I begin, I like to quickly introduce the distinguished panelists and the participants. So we have Mr. Stefan Lobin, who is a Swedish labor leader and also social democrat politicians who served as the Prime Minister of Sweden during 2014 and 21, perhaps the longest serving Prime Minister, if I can recall, but I'm not so sure. I'll let Mr. Prime Minister to confirm that. And among Nepali, we have Madam Kamala Panta, who is the Honorable Chair of a Parliamentary Committee at the National Assembly, Development, Economic Affairs, and Good Governance Committee. And we have Honorable Chair of National Human Rights Commission, Mr. Tap Bahadur Magar. And then we have Madam Deputy Speaker from the Provincial Assembly from Kosi Province, one of the 7 provinces in Nepal, Ms. Sirjana Danwar. We have Madam Honorable Member of National Planning Commission, the apex body of looking after the national policy framework, and also the SDG, Madam Gita Paudel Adhikari. We have Honorable Member of the Provincial Assembly from Madhya Province, Mr. Manish Suman. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We have the Mayor of Matiani Municipality from Madhya Province, Mr. Hari Mandal. Then we have the Member Secretary from Social Welfare Council, the coordinating body of the government with the NGO and IGO work, Mr. Manoj Bhatta. We have Dr. S.P. Kaloni, the chair of Association of International NGO in Nepal. And we have a very important person as well, Mr. Ram Subedi. He's the chair of this Nepali Civil Society Network of NGOs, NGO Federation of Nepal. Plus, we have this a great representation of people from different organizations in audience. So I again like to welcome everyone. it's a quick intro. I think this time is too short, otherwise I can go on and on. So with this, I like to present the rapid assessment. We are able to produce last year. It has some relevancy. Can anyone help me? How can I share my screen? Okay, it's here.
There should be share button at the bottom. The upward
Okay,
end.
try.
And click on the screen.
Okay, no, I don't see that. So I click on it, share a screen, and then I have
Then
three options: Chrome tab, Windows, and then entire screen. I
entire
don't see the presentation that I like to share here. So for the sake of time, can anyone from Club de Madrid share the presentation, please? Wonderful. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So, so we conducted a rapid assessment of where Nepal stands in terms of SDG implementation, because we signed this in 2015 and we had this halfway through the last year. So this consists of the progress of last year. There may be some slight differences given the progress this year happening, and I would certainly encourage Madam Geeta from NPC to share the latest and from other panelists and participants. Next screen, please. So I divide my sharing into four parts. Next screen, please. No, you just jumped into the former. Can you go back one more? Thank you. So Nepal has the progress in SDG in Nepal is a mixed one. We have progressed in some area and we lag in the others. I can't really put everything here, but the significant progresses that Nepal has been able to make so far is reducing poverty to 16.7%, whereas the government has a new kind of indices, and based on that, the government declares that 20% of Nepali population are living below absolute poverty line. It means 1 in 5 Nepali are living in an absolute poverty condition. We have improved health outcomes in terms of maternal mortality rate. We have increased performance in terms of school enrollment, particularly for girls. It's also addressing the disparity between boys and girls students. We also have, despite the COVID and earthquake and other issue, we have in an average quite good economic growth rate of 6.8%, which goes up and down, but we are progressing. We also have enhancing infrastructure and energy access, with over 88% of the people having access to electricity. So I think this is significant improvement that has taken place in Nepal since the adoption of SDG in 2015. However, these gains, these progresses are not evenly distributed, and we see that minority and marginalized groups often faces more layers of exclusion, and they have unequal access to development benefits. So that's where we stand in terms of SDG progress so far. Next screen, please. And I think these progresses are not beyond the challenges. So we have persistent inequality where the wealth distribution is an issue. Also, we have this gender and social kind of unequal persistent indicators in our society, which also kind of do not allow the fair distribution in the development gains. We also we have been talking about, we have many policy framework about localization, but these moves are not proved sufficient. So we need to do more on that. Resource constraint is a major issue. The government recently has the new budget projection in the BNR. It says that Nepal will require $163 billion between 2024 to 2030, which is about 11% of national GDP. So that's a significant resource challenge that we have to deal with. Data management, I think that's perhaps the most critical and a strategic gap in how we plan and measure our progress. If you see the SDG goals, yeah, you will see that especially in poverty, goal 10, inequality, and goal 16, just an inclusive institution. We either do not have the baseline or data, or we don't have sufficient information to really track where does the country stand. So I think this is a crucial area. We also have coordination challenges, given that Nepal has adopted new federal governance system in 2015. We had 2 rounds of elections that has taken place since then. But I think coordination between the government agencies and with government, non-government, and other sector is a constant challenge that we have to deal with. Of course, climate change, we just hear the recent rainfall in Kathmandu and around surrounding area has really demonstrated how vulnerable we are to climate change and natural disaster. Of course, there is a part of preparedness and response a mechanism and instrument, but I think we cannot deny the fact that Nepal is one of the most vulnerable country given this climate change issue. Next, please. And the great news is we have a number of opportunity. I just listed out some. I think there is a increasing voices at all sector to strengthen our legal and policy frameworks. There is also increased voice about participation and leadership of different groups at different levels, especially on a decision making. We also have the opportunity to improve our access to socio-economic services in terms of quality and also in terms of quantity of the services reaching to the marginalized and minority groups. We are also working on, and that's a great opportunity for us to move, is to enhance our data collection and the monitoring system. The government has new 16 periodic plan, which talks about evidence-informed, evidence-based policy making, and I think all these require a quite good and robust system for managing the data. And we are also realizing that there is great need and opportunity for us to foster partnership and collaboration, not among the government at different level, federal and subnational and national level, but also multi-stakeholder collaboration. So these are the great opportunity that Nepal is preparing to tap on. Next, please. So we see the way forward. We need to focus on targeted interventions rather than one size fits in all. We also need to improve our data collection and analysis, the decision making, given the way we are new federal system. We still have to decentralize our decision making. If you see how the indicator and metrics are developed for SDG realization, you see more responsibility are bestowed upon provincial and local governments, where the resources allocation stay largely at the federal level. So that disconnect between responsibility and resource sharing needs to really be worked out. We also need to talk about empowering local communities and putting them at the forefront of SDG implementation in Nepal. And I see that with these measures, there are great opportunity for minority rights to be upheld. And also, it's not just the minority, it's like everyone in the country will benefit from sustainable development efforts. And also moving towards a more inclusive and equitable future. And now our Prime Minister was one of the world leaders who signed this adoption of Pact for the Future. That's another great opportunity for Nepal to really benefit on. So with this, I conclude the finding from our assessment, and I'd like to invite Prime Minister Lufon to share his experience. We focus on the importance of multi-stakeholder engagement to promote social inclusion at the core of SDG. And I would appreciate if Mr. Prime Minister would also reflect some of the experiences from Sweden, how he deals with this issue during his prime ministership. Over to you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you so much, Mr. Director General. Executive Director, sorry. First, let me say a few words expressing my empathy and solidarity with the people in Nepal hurt by the floods and the landslides. As far as I'm informed, we have more than 200 casualties due to this, and I would like to express my solidarity with the people in Nepal. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here and share this occasion with the Center of Policy Dialogue and all representatives from government to the Congress and also, of course, local representatives. It's a true pleasure. I'm also happy to be joining you here on behalf of Club de Madrid. As was mentioned, former leaders, former presidents and prime ministers, we are more than 115 former leaders, also from about 70 different countries. And now we work together with current leaders and other stakeholders, sharing our political experience to help address current challenges, but also opportunities of an inclusive approach to development in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, of course. At Club de Madrid, we have been promoting a concept called shared societies for nearly 20 years now. And we defined a shared society as one in which all individuals hold equal status as contributing participants and are also free to express their differences while including their voices in that of the population as a whole. And we believe that striving to build shared societies is critical for the success of our democracies, of our economies, and our citizens' well-being in general. Now, several Sustainable Development Goals are directly aligned with shared societies that we stand for. Example is SDG 10 about reduced inequalities, which seeks to empower vulnerable groups and ensure equal opportunities. Another one is SDG 5 about gender equality, SDG 16 about peace, justice, and strong institutions, aim to promote inclusive governance, human rights, and equitable access to justice. Now, all of them are linked to the paramount concept of leaving no one behind. The aspiration of shared societies is a fundamental underpinning of Agenda 2030. Leaving no one behind requires a holistic approach to social inclusion and particular attention to the participation of vulnerable groups and minorities in all stages of the implementation process. Inclusion ensures that the benefit of development are shared equitably among all individuals, regardless of their gender, their age, ethnicity, or socioeconomic background. So the 2030 Agenda explicitly emphasizes the importance of this inclusivity, focusing on the active engagement of marginalized groups such as women, youth, persons with disabilities, ethnic minorities, migrants, and also refugees. Their participation in governance, in decision-making, and policy design fosters social cohesion, trust, and sustainable development. And their perspective and contributions are invaluable in shaping a more just and inclusive society. I can say that this is, I believe, an important part of the Swedish history. I want to underline that Sweden is in no way perfect, but our history shows that if the more you include people from all groups of society, the stronger society you can create with common values and common goals and so on. We do have our political indifferences, also, of course, but I would say in general that making sure there's a strong civil society also working together in the society is really, really important. Now, many countries around the world have, in consequence, implemented policies and programs aimed at improving social, educational, employment outcomes for these vulnerable groups, and this has led to progress in several areas, including increased political participation and empowerment of marginalized communities. However, challenges remain, we know that. Structural inequalities persist, limiting access to basic services, and discrimination continues to affect the social inclusion of racial and ethnic minorities, women, and other vulnerable groups. And also on top of that, the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated these inequalities, disproportionately impacting the most vulnerable again. And the lack of sufficient funding often limits the reach and effectiveness of inclusion programs. So in order to fully realize the goals of the Agenda 2030, greater commitment and resources are needed, recognizing that the need for equitable access to resources and opportunities is crucial for achieving a truly inclusive and sustainable future. And in that regard, let me underline the importance of the so-called global north, or developed countries, or whatever we call ourselves. The responsibility for the richer part of the world to do much more in this sense, I think, is very crucial to underline. And now I hope that after the Pact of the Future was adopted by the General Assembly, I hope that we can move into a more structured, systematic phase of world development where developed and developing countries can contribute, ensuring that all people have their place today and also the future. Now, so implementing political and legislative measures that promote social inclusion yields significant benefits for society as a whole, and that is the right approach. This is not a zero-sum game, it's a win-win game. So including people, making sure that more people are included in society, have social rights, and can participate in the economy is good for all of us. So I think we need to have that perspective. It strengthens the economy, but also foster innovation. It fosters productivity, so it will gain the whole society, whole countries. So reducing inequalities, addressing barriers to participation can also prevent social unrest, reduce crime rates, and create a safer environment for all. So this is clearly a win-win, not to say a win-win-win. In the long term, inclusive policies strengthen democratic values as well, also the rule of law, because when all groups feel represented and included in society, the legitimacy of democratic institutions is reinforced. And this creates a more stable political landscape where the public confidence in governance is maintained. So important. So multi-stakeholder engagement, and this, I note, is one of the ambitions in Nepal's program, and I do appreciate that. I see that as a very strong ingredient. This multi-stakeholder is essential in the creation of laws, plans, policies addressing social inclusion and diversity. So representatives of vulnerable and marginal groups must be actively involved in these discussions. From a shared society perspective, civil society organizations, private sector, and also development partners must have their voices heard alongside governments and decision-making processes. So stakeholders should be granted speaking rights, access to meetings, and the ability to submit documents like shadow reports and memoranda. And by involving these different perspectives in the policymaking process, we will create a more inclusive framework, a more creative framework that reflects the needs and concerns of all citizens, particularly those who are often, in many cases, overlooked. Community-led development projects and the empowerment of marginalized groups demonstrate the power of inclusion in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. So by leveraging the partnerships, I think all societies will gain from that. Now, to conclude, Agenda 2030 is not just aspirational. It reflects our own development priorities and tests our genuine political wills. We democratic countries and institutions may advocate for the eradication of poverty, promote gender equality, of course, ensure quality education and healthcare for all, foster sustainable economic growth, and combat the consequences of climate change. But we should clarify that inclusive implementation of SDGs need to be placed at the forefront of our efforts. And having said that, I must add that it is highly encouraging that Nepal and its representatives have taken this approach and offer in this session opportunities to provide guidelines for the future. Congratulations as well for your committed participation in the high-level political forum of the SDGs, which was held now in July, 18th to 17th July at UN headquarters in New York, passing a third voluntary national review of the SDGs for the country with an exhaustive country progress report, from which we all learn and we all can take note. So with that, I thank you all for this opportunity to address you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prime Minister Ruben. I think your kind words really help us to deal with this catastrophe and also encourage us to prepare more in the future, and also emphasizing the importance of different actors putting their effort for this common goal. So we continue this. I see that we have one hand raised among the audiences. So I suggest to put the question in the Q&A box, and we'll respond as time allows. So without further ado, I'd like to invite, before I begin, please allow me the privilege to keep you reminded of the time limitation we have. So we have allocated 4 minutes each to the panelists maximum, and 2 minutes each for the distinguished participants. And as time allows, we can shift. And this arrangement is made to make sure that we respect inclusive voices, and also we are mindful of everyone's time and priorities. So with that, I like to begin with our panelists. We have 4 panelists. Deputy Speaker, Honorable Deputy Speaker from Kosi Province, Honorable Member from NHRC, Honorable Chair from National Human Rights Commission, and Madam Kamala Panta from the National Assembly. And I also like to get your permission to reshuffle the flow of speakers. So this is more in line with the theme of the discussion and less in terms of protocol. So with the due respect to the protocols, please give me the privilege to shift the speakers around. So I'd like to invite Ms. Sirjana Danwar. Before being the deputy speaker, she was active. So I think it's not just typical politicians, it's a civil society versus politicians. So and she will be sharing the progress, reflection, and role of multi-stakeholder in the SDG acceleration in Nepal, with a focus on Kosi province, which is the eastern part of the country, consists of high mountain hills and Tarai, and having border with India and China. So, Manyaju, Hazurlai, and for the sake of making sure that I'm with the participants and panelists, I will speak mostly in Nepali. So, Manyaju, हजुरलाई 4 मिनट, अनि मैले पहिले नै विनम्रतापूर्वक क्षमा मागे। 4 मिनट।
Yeah, you have 4 minutes, and I'm sorry for that in advance. First of all, This is an important discussion, and for this opportunity, I appreciate the organizer and mainly to Rajesh Karna and to everyone. And uh, in Kosi province, there are 14 districts and 131 municipalities, and it has terai, hills, and mountains, and different um, ethnicities and groups uh, reside. And in many sectors, Nepal has achieved lot. However, there have been challenges um, in Kosi province. Kosi province has stepped important um, uh, approaches like solar panel installation at home, and that has made clean energy available and do, and has reduced the dependency on traditional energy. And in, in SDG 7, it has supported, and Kosi has adopted localization roadmap and for monitoring, and they have Kosi has planned accordingly, and the Kosi has this made a
प्रदेशले एसडिजी लक्ष्यहरूसँग आफ्नो बजेट र कार्यक्रम स्रोत पुस्तकहरूमा एसडिजी कोडिङ लागू गरेको छ।
province has adopted SDG
एसडिजी कार्यान्वयनका लागि
coding.
बहुसरकारवाला
Yeah,
साझेदारी
province has implemented SDG coding on its budget and program resource books to align financial allocations. Multi-stakeholder partnerships have been crucial for SDG acceleration in the province. The provincial government has actively engaged diverse stakeholders, including civil society, private sector, cooperatives, academia. Civil society organizations play an active role in achieving SDGs through advocacy, service delivery, and monitoring. The private sector contributes through corporate social responsibility initiatives and sustainable business practices. International development partners provide technical and financial assistance for SDG aligned programs. To accelerate progress, we should continue strengthening multi-stakeholder collaboration, enhancing data system, increasing financing, tailoring interventions, and reach those furthest behind Janjati, Dalit, and whoever has marginalized to target them. We have the programs to target them and they need to be targeted, and in by 2030 Kosi province uh, are province is eager to take all the steps, and currently because of the disaster flooding, and the country has faced the disaster, um, whoever has suffered and lost their lives, I like to uh, express my empathy to them, and would like to express my sorrow to them. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in this program. Thank you.
आम सरी म चाहिँ म्युट थिएँ माफ पाउँ सो धन्यवाद मान्यज्यू यो समयमा हामी सबै सँगै छौँ अनि यो सान्दर्भिक
Sorry, I was muted. Thank
थ्याङ्क यू
you.
मैले
And we are all
हाम्रो मान्य
connected.
सदस्य
And
स्टेजमा आएको गीता म्याडमलाई देख्दैछु स्वागत छ हजुरलाई
I can
आशा चाहिँ
see
प्राविधिक समस्या
Honorable
यसलाई
Ma'am
समाधान भयो
Geeta
र क्षमा
from
चाहन्छु
Nepal
यो यसमा अलि स्लो
Planning
भएर
Commission,
सम्झना सो
and
यसपछि
I'm
हजुरको प्रस्तुति
sorry we
मान्यज्यू
became a little
सो
slow.
के गरौँ
And
मैले
now
स्लाइड
it's your turn.
देखाइदिउँ अनि हजुरले भन्दै जाँदा म चाहिँ त्यसलाई
And
फरवर्ड
what
गर्छु
if
हुन्छ हजुर
I would like to show the slide, and
हजुरले अनम्युट गर्नु पर्यो मान्यज्यू
uh, if you can
आवाज
unmute, yeah.
हजुर म ढिलो आएँ
Yeah.
अब मेरै पालो हो
I'm sorry,
हो
is
हजुर
it my
हजुरले
turn?
मोबाइल
Yes.
या अरू दुईटा कनेक्सन छ हजुरको इको खेलिरहेछ
Yeah, it looks like you have two connection. There is echo. Uh, just oh, some
आज
moment,
मलाई
please.
प्रविधिले धोका दियो
Technology has failed me today.
प्रविधि भनेको यस्तै हुँदो रहेछ के अरे
No worries.
सुरुमा
Technology,
नमस्कार
there
भन्न
are
चाहन्छु
always issues.
आज
Uh,
अलिकति ढिला भयो समय एउटा
Good
मिटिङ थियो
morning,
मिटिङबाट कुदेर
uh, uh,
टाइममै आउनु
everyone.
पर्छ होला भनेको थिएँ
And
केही समय ढिला
I
भयो
had a
जोइन हुनलाई
meeting
अलिक
and
समय
I
पनि
thought I
लाग्यो
would be in time. However,
र
I
यहाँहरू
became a
सम्पूर्णलाई
little late
सर्वप्रथम
to
मलाई पनि
join all of you.
यो कार्यक्रममा
And
सहभागी हुने मौका दिनुभएकोमा धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु
I like to express
र
my
मैले केही
gratitude to
स्लाइडहरू
everyone
पठाएको
for
थिएँ
giving me
र त्यो स्लाइड
opportunity.
अनुसारले
I had shared
एनपिसीको
some
भूमिका
slide
र त्यसै गरी
before about the
दिगो विकासको
NPC role
लक्ष्यमा
and
वास्तवमा हामी कहाँ पुग्यौँ र
where we are
त्यसमा
at and
एनजिओ
for the
आइएनजिओ नागरिक
SDG
समाज व्यक्ति यो
goals
सबैको के कस्तो भूमिका रहन्छ
and
भन्ने
what are the
विषयमा
roles
थोरै म
of
यहाँ समक्ष
civil
केही कुरा राख्न
society,
चाहन्छु
private
र
society, and
मैले
government. I like to
यो मेरो
express
स्लाइडको
a little.
सबैभन्दा पहिलोमै
And this
पेज
is
गरेको
the
छु र नेपाल
first slide.
प्रोग्रेसन अन सस्टेनेबल डेभलपमेन्ट गोल्स नेसनल पोलिसिज मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर्स पार्टनरसिप एन्ड द रोल अफ इलेक्टेड गभर्मेन्ट यो मेरो विषयवस्तु हो यसैमा रहेर मैले केही कुरा यहाँ समक्ष राख्न चाहन्छु म स्लाइड चेन्ज गरिदिँदै गर्नुहोला
Um, I would like to follow the slide, and if you can please uh, change when it's needed.
हजुरलाई 4 मिनट समय मान्यज्यू
हजुर
हजुरलाई 4 मिनट समय
4
अनि
मिनट मात्रै
माफ
त्यसो
पाउनु
भए त
4 मिनट
You have
अहिलेलाई अनि यो हजुरले दुईटा
4
स्क्रिन
minutes
खोल्नु
of
भएको छ
एकैछिनमा
time.
राख्छु नि त जस्तो अब
So
होइन सन्
only 4 minutes,
2015मा हामीले
then I
स्लाइडहरू
have
अपडेट गरेर यो
to make it a
2015देखि
summary.
20सम्ममा यो
We adopted
हामीले
it in
एसडिजी गोल्स
2015,
प्राप्त गर्ने
and by
लक्ष्य राख्यौँ
2030,
र
we
अब
targeted to
सबै
achieve
संयुक्त राष्ट्र
SDG
सङ्घका सबै
goals and
सदस्यहरूको एकदम
to
संयुक्त
all the
सहभागितामा समन्वयमा र एक आपसको प्रतिबद्धतामा हामीले यो
UN
गोल
nations,
एचिभ गर्छौँ भनेर हामीले उद्देश्य पनि
we
राख्यौँ र यसका
with
17वटा
their coordination,
लक्ष्यहरू छन्
and
र त्यसै गरी
we will achieve this. It has 17
यसका
goals
टार्गेटहरू छन् अथवा
and
169वटा टार्गेटहरू
169
छन् र त्यसै गरी
targets it
यसका
has,
232वटा
and
इन्डिकेटरहरू छन् तर नेसन प्लानिङ कमिसनले
232
नेपालको वस्तुस्थितिलाई
indicators.
मध्यनजर गरेर केही
NPC has
इन्डिकेटर्सहरू
considered the
थप
landscape
गर्यो
of
त्यसमा
Nepal and then
247वटा
added more
इन्डिकेटरहरू थप गरेको थियो
indicators,
तर पछि
like 247
2022मा
additional
अब
indicators
कतिपय इन्डिकेटर्सहरू चाहिँ
were
वास्तवमा
added.
नेपालको लागि
And
उपयोगी छैन भनेर पनि केही
later on,
यो
it
जुन
was
एनुअल
realized
रिपोर्ट
that
पब्लिस हुँदाखेरि
all
2022मा
indicators are not
त्यसमा कटौती गर्यो भन्दा तिन
uh,
सय एकवटा जम्मा बनायो
needed, and
र
then
त्यस्तै
we
अब
cut down some
स्लाइडमा
of the
मैले
indicators
जस्तो
and made it up
की
to
पिलरहरू पाँचवटा
231.
राखेको त्यसलाई 5P पनि भनिन्छ
And then
होइन दिगो विकासको
we kept 5 pillars,
लक्ष्यहरूलाई
like we
समेटेर
call it as five
नेपालमा
P's,
ती
like
पाँचवटा
for
पिलरहरूको हामी
sustainable development
यसलाई राख्छौँ
targeted.
त्यसै गरी समग्रमा
We
अब यसलाई
keep
पनि
all
समग्रमा
in the
छोटकरीमा
5 pillars,
तिनवटा
and
क्षेत्रमा बाँडफाँड
in
गरिएको छ
summary,
एउटा
it has
सामाजिक
been
विकास एउटा आर्थिक विकास र त्यसै गरी वातावरण
allocated
संरक्षणलाई
into
र यो
3 different
कुराहरू मैले यो स्लाइडमा
sectors.
देखाइदिएको छु
And then I have
र
made
त्यसै
the
गरी अब
slide,
यहाँले
and
छोटो भन्नुभएको छ र अब
you have
छोटोमा भन्नुपर्दा अब
given
अर्को
me
स्लाइडमा नेसन
to
प्लानिङको भूमिका के त भन्ने सन्दर्भमा
go in
वास्तवमा
summary.
एसडिजी
So,
गोल
what is
को
the
कार्यान्वयन गर्ने
NPC
अनुगमन
role?
गर्ने टोटल जिम्मा चाहिँ
and the monitoring and part, or the publishing of the report part, it's all by the NPC, and the coordinating the three sectors role is given to the NPC, and NPC is a advisor, and it's a higher organization uh, in this program, and there are many committees made for this work, and mainly there are three committees, and NPC representative is also there in the, and the deputy chair is also there, and we are also involved, and we, every member coordinates here, and sector wise there are committees, and then many stakeholders like civil society, like someone who is involved in social activity can also join, or INGO can join, and other groups, and in this is global agenda, and to get to that target, we have to coordinate with everyone at national level, and we have followed that, yeah, and then in social inclusion sector, NPC has worked a lot, like for indigenous population or marginalized group, like to the bottom level, how to coordinate and access, NPC has been approaching to them, and whatever the local representatives are, or we coordinate with them, and at the NPC has worked coordinating with the three levels of the government. For example, at local level, to gain the local SDGs, their responsibilities are they are responsible. Like one example, we take Dhulikhel municipality, like it has worked a lot of activities, and to some areas they work, however, they do not like particularly target, or they might not have um, considered the SDG goals. There is a lacking, and if we can also engage them, and I think we can achieve more. And I like to express that. Now, multi-stakeholders, or we call them developmental partners, like civil society, or like every group is has a strong role. One cannot work independently, and everyone has their own role, and in one federation group did an organization, and non NGOs have developed a forum, and through the forum also they are working, and it's called Nepal SDG Forum, and we have found through the Nepal SDG Forum also there are activities, and we have limited resources and means, and whatever the limited we have, how to mobilize effectively, we need their help, and to mm, build their capacity also, we have some roles, and like collecting the data or evaluating them, and there are NGOs, INGOs, and to everyone, and we transparently asking everyone that this is your responsibility, and everyone's has a role in this. There are many challenges, and
हामी फेरि आउँछौँ माननीयज्यू मैले 4 मिनेट थपेँ
sorry, I would come back
एउटा
again.
गाह्रो काम छ
I
धन्यवाद छ
gave you
सभामुख
only four
हुँदाखेरि
minutes,
अहिले
and
मैले
I have expressed political
सेयर गर्छौँ
barriers
हामी
in my
सेयर गर्छौँ
slides, and
अनि फेरि केही
okay,
प्रश्न
we will share all those,
फेरि प्रश्नहरू
and
केही छ भने
uh, any concern or you have, I would be available
धन्यवाद
for
हामी फेरि
you.
फर्किन्छौँ समय भयो भने धन्यवाद धेरै
Thank you so much. We will return
सो
back again if we
मैले
had time.
विदाउट फर्दर ड्यू
And
मैले हाम्रो राष्ट्रिय मानव अधिकार आयोगका माननीय अध्यक्षज्यूलाई
now
अनुरोध गरेँ
I'm
सर हजुरको 4
calling
मिनट
Honorable
कृपया हजुरलाई भन्नु चाहिँ नपरोस् 4 मिनट सर
member
थ्याङ्क
from
यू
Nepal Planning Commission, and it has he has 4 minutes. धन्यवाद मलाई बोलाउनु.
And now start. The National Human Rights Commission of Nepal recognizes both the achievements and remaining challenges in realizing the rights-based vision of the Sustainable Development Goals, the no one mind. We commend progress expanding social protection coverage, improving access to education, and increasing women's political participation. At the same time, we emphasize the need for greater efforts to ensure inclusive economic growth, decent opportunities, and strengthen governance of law. From a human rights perspective, Nepal has made important strides in several areas in right to education, gender equality, and poverty reduction. At the same time, the NSRC emphasizes several human rights concerns that require urgent attention. Economic growth has been insufficient to generate adequate decent opportunities, impacting labor rights and livelihood. Inequalities persist for marginalized groups like Dalit, indigenous people, and persons with disabilities across various socio-economic indicators. Violence against women and girls remains prevalent, violating fundamental rights to safety and dignity. Weakness in governance and rule of law undermines access to justice and effective public service. Accelerating sustainable development goal progress in Nepal requires the concerted efforts of multiple stakeholders. The federal, provincial, and local governments must strengthen policy coherence, institutional mechanism, and resource allocation aligned with sustainable development goals, targets, and human rights obligations. Civil society organizations are vital for community mobilization, advocacy, and reaching marginalized groups. Their efforts in sustainable development goals, awareness, monitoring, and promoting accountability are essential. The media plays an important role in sustainable development goal awareness. Promoting accountability and highlighting both progress and implementation gaps. As an independent human rights institution, the NHRC is committed monitoring sustainable development goals implementation through a human rights lens, advocating for the rights of vulnerable groups and promoting a human rights based approach to sustainable development goals. In conclusion, while Nepal has made important strides achieving sustainable development goals by 2030, requires accelerated, coordinated action by all stakeholders. We must redouble our efforts to realize the transformative vision of the 2030 agenda and ensure no one is left behind Nepal's journey towards sustainable and respecting developments. As our fellows has already mentioned, I also like to express my heartfelt condolences uh, to the families of those who has lost their life in these in these disastrous flood and landslide, and also pray for the eternal peace of the departed soul. I also like to say National Human Rights Commission as monitoring the situation, has also monitored and given and requested the government to provide the relief materials to the person who are suffering from uh, the effect of the disastrous flood and landslides. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rakesh.
थ्याङ्क यू माननीय अध्यक्षज्यू संवेदना र श्रद्धाञ्जली र मनोबल को लागि हामी सबैलाई एकअर्काको सहयोग चाहिन्छ। सो हजुरको तहबाट राज्यले चाहिँ यसमा अलिक
Thank
गम्भीर
you.
प्राथमिकता
We all
हाल्नुभयो
express
मानिटरिङ
condolence and
स्टेकहोल्डरहरू हुन्छ।
sympathy
त्यसको लागि धेरै धन्यवाद।
to
मलाई लाग्छ यो
those and
हामीले लेसन्स लर्न हो, जस्ट ट्राई नट टु रिपिट
we
भन्ने हिसाबले
it's
र खास गरेर
lessons
नेपालको
learned
संविधानले
for us and
फन्डामेन्टल राइट्समा
Nepali
32वटा प्रोभिजनहरू
constitution
राखेको छ। महिला
has
पुरुषको जनजाति
30 to 32
विभिन्न जनजाति
provisions
भाषाभाषी क्षेत्रको
about human rights
त्यसको
and
इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन चाहिँ एउटा
mm,
महत्त्वपूर्ण
for
मुद्दा चाहिँ हो। हजुरको पनि प्रोग्रेस
indigenous
रिपोर्टमा
people
थियो
and marginalized
फन्डामेन्टल
people
राइट्स
and
इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनमा इम्फेसाइज
uh,
गर्नु भएको छ र अहिलेको सरकारले
we
पनि
need
त्यसलाई
to
गम्भीरताका साथ
implement
कार्यान्वयन
them
गर्छु
and
भनेर सम्माननीय
the government
प्रधानमन्त्रीले
has
भन्नुभयो। सो मलाई
also
लाग्छ यो दुईटै कुरा
committed
सहयोग चाहिँ हुन सक्दैन।
like
अलि हजुरले यसलाई
right
अलिक
honorary prime minister
माइनोरिटी
also
र
has
मार्जिनलाइज कम्युनिटीको
committed that
एडभोकेसीमा
they
अलि हजुरको
would
स्वर चाहिँ नि
implement
चाहिन्छ भन्ने
for
उहाँ
those
माइनोरिटी भएकोले
groups
त्यो कुरा
and
मैले छुटेँ। धेरै धन्यवाद। अब म हाम्रो
thank you so
कमला
much and
म्याडमलाई उहाँ
now I like
विकास
to
आर्थिक मामिला र सुशासन
pray,
समितिको अध्यक्ष
give the
हुनुहुन्छ
floor to
अनि उहाँ राष्ट्रिय सभाको सदस्य पनि
Honorable
हुनुहुन्छ। मैले
Kamala.
आफै एक्जिक्युटिभमा
Uh,
मन्त्रालयहरू चलाएर एक्टिभिजम गरेर आउनु भएको छ।
she
सो उहाँलाई
was
मैले
in
अनुरोध गरेँ
ministries in
4
executive
मिनटमा
roles
हजुरले खास गरेर यो
and I like
जनप्रतिनिधिहरू
to
हजुर आफै
request
विभिन्न
her
तहको जनप्रतिनिधि भएर
in
को
4
हिसाबले
minutes
उहाँहरूको
to
भूमिका
express
कसरी चाहिँ नि
and
हुन सक्छ र कसरी गर्नुहुन्छ। सो 4 मिनट
what we
मानिलिन्छ।
have seen, what
धन्यवाद
role they
राकेशजी।
can
4
provide.
मिनटमा मैले के कुरा भ्याउँछु। सम्मानीय
Thank
प्रधानमन्त्रीज्यू,
you.
सहकर्मीहरू र
Not
आदरणीय
sure
सदस्य
what can I
साथीहरू,
cover in 4 minutes.
अत्यन्त
All to
महत्त्वपूर्ण
all the
विषयमा
friends.
छलफल कार्यक्रम
And this
राख्नुभयो,
is
सहभागिता दिनुभयो,
the
हार्दिक
discussion
धन्यवाद
in
दिन
very
चाहन्छु।
important matters.
र
And
जनप्रतिनिधि र राष्ट्रिय सभाको सदस्यको हैसियतले दिगो विकास लक्ष्यतर्फको प्रगतिको अनुकूलन र गति बढाउनमा हामी महत्त्वपूर्ण भूमिका निर्वाह गरिराखेका छौँ।
we play an
हाम्रो
important role
भूमिकाले
in the
सकेसम्म
SDG
SDG
and to
गोललाई पुरा गर्ने परिस्थिति
quickly
सिर्जना
achieve
होस्
those
भन्ने
goals.
अपेक्षाका साथ
Our
हामीले
discussion
अत्यन्त
would
प्रेरणाका
help
साथ काम गरेका छौँ
achieving
र
this
हामीले
SDG goal, I
समितिमा 4
hope.
मिनटमा अरू
And
लामो कुराकानी गर्न पनि भ्याउँदिनँ।
in the
आज
4
म
minutes, I
SDG
can't
तर्फ
do a
राष्ट्रको यात्रालाई
lot.
प्रतिबिम्बित गर्न चाहन्छु र विधायकी
And
कार्यमार्फत यस प्रयासमा जनताको सहभागिता बढाउने
this-
महत्त्वमा जोड दिन
the
चाहन्छु।
importance
सहभागिता
of
साँच्चै ठुलो कुरा हो। हामीले
people's
मिलेनियम गोल भन्ने
participation is,
यो
I like
राष्ट्रिय
to
योजना आयोगको
focus
16औं
their
योजना अहिले कार्यमा
participation
भइराखेको छ।
is very
16औं योजना
crucial.
सर्कुलरमा SDG
Currently,
गोललाई पुरा
16th
गर्नको
planning
लागि
is
के गर्न सकिन्छ भनेर हामीले लामो
ongoing,
छलफल गऱ्यौँ।
and
समितिका
what
मार्फतबाट
can
हामी
we
विधायिकाको
do
राष्ट्रिय
in
सभामा
this
हामीले धेरै
16th
सङ्कल्प
planning.
प्रस्तावहरू पास
We
गऱ्यौँ स्वास्थ्य
discussed a lot.
दलितका
We
विषयहरू
uh,
त्यसपछि गएर
focused the health
अपाङ्गताका
and
व्यक्तिहरू ओत पछि
Dalit,
नपरोस् भन्ने
disabled.
सिद्धान्तलाई
No one
अवलम्बन
gets
गरी हामीले
behind. No,
यसलाई
for
अगाडि बढायौँ र
following the
सामाजिक
principle
समानता
of
र
no one gets
सामाजिक
behind
न्यायलाई
or
विशेष जोड
gets
दियौँ
left.
हामीले र दिगो
Then we
विकास र सुशासन
focused more on the
नभइकन दिगो विकास हुन सक्दैन
them,
दिगो
and
विकास नभएको परिणाम त हामीले
we
अहिले देखिराखेका छौँ
uh,
हामीले असुरक्षित बस्तीका
uh,
कारण र दिगो विकास गर्न
good
नसकेका
governance
कारणले
we
अहिले
have
ठुलो क्षति हामीले बेहोर्न परेको छ
considered, and
यसका बारेमा हामीले सरकारका
lack
प्रतिनिधिहरू
of
बोलायौँ
the good
अनि
governance we
त्यसपछि
have
मन्त्रीहरूलाई पनि
suffered a
बोलाएर
lot, and
लामो
for
छलफल
about
गरेका
that
छौँ
we
गरिसकेका
have
छौँ र
called
गर्दै पनि
many
छौँ
ministers
र
and
हामी अहिले
more important people,
विशेष
and we
रूपमा हामी
have been
यो
discussing, we have discussed,
एसडिजीका
and
दृष्टिले जेन्डरका दृष्टिले र
and
क्लाइमेटका दृष्टिले
with the
काम अगाडि
perspective of
बढाइराखेका छौँ
gender,
अब यो
uh,
क्लाइमेटका दृष्टिले
n-
जलवायु परिवर्तनका
climate
दृष्टिले भने पनि
and
हामी
climate
अत्यन्त
change,
संवेदनशील अवस्थामा
and
छौँ
we are very
यहाँहरूले सबैले थाहा
sensitive in the
पाइसक्नु भएको छ
climate change.
हिउँतालहरू फुटेर हामी
Uh,
बस्तीहरू
you
सकेका
have
छौँ
you
र
have
त्यसको
been
कारणले पनि
aware
हामी
that our
जलवायु परिवर्तनको मुद्दालाई विशेष मुद्दाको रूपमा र
ice
सुशासनलाई
on the
विशेष
mountain
गरेर
gets
अब
broken,
हामी
and
कानुनी
we are
ढाँचाहरूलाई
facing the
सुदृढ
disaster,
पार्ने
and we have
सहभागितामूलक
to
संयन्त्र वृद्धि गर्ने
make the legal
त्यसपछि गएर
frames
पारदर्शिता र
strong.
जवाबदेहिता
We have
प्रवर्धन गर्ने
to work on
बहुसारोबार
transparency,
र साझेदारीलाई
accountability,
बढावा दिने
and promote
समावेशी बजेट सुनिश्चित गर्दै यो
multilateral
समावेशी बजेट
uh,
लैङ्गिक बजेट भनेर हाम्रो
uh,
सङ्घीय सरकारले
organization
गाउँपालिकाका
or
सरकारहरूसँग
stakeholders,
गाविसका सरकारहरूले
and
पनि लैङ्गिक बजेट
to
छुट्याउने परिपाटी थियो
for the
अहिले त्यो
gender,
छैन र यसमा हामीले
we had
विशेष जोड
a
दिएका छौँ
budget
र
separation
कोडिङ गर्नु
at
पर्यो सबै बजेटलाई कोडिङ
local
गर्नुपर्छ
level
भन्नेमा
also, and
बजेट कोडिङ सिस्टमलाई
we
तिनै
need to
तहमा प्रभावकारी
implement
बनाउनु
budget
पर्यो भन्नेमा छौँ
coding
अब
system,
यसलाई चाहिँ
and
स्थानीयकरण गर्ने र विशेषतः
we need
तिन
to
तहमा
localize it,
समयावधि मूल्याङ्कन पनि गर्न
and
अहिलेसम्म
we
र
have
जलवायु
monitored at
परिवर्तनका
three
इस्युमा हामीले
levels,
प्रदेश
and the
गाउँसम्म
issues of
पुर्याएका छौँ
climate
यी
change
कुराहरू
we
गर्दा
have
गर्दै पनि हामी चाहिँ सहभागितामूलक विकास
approached up
चाहन्छौँ
to village,
सहभागिता चाहिँ
and we need
यहाँहरूको
a
सहभागिता पनि हामीले
inclusive
महत्त्वपूर्ण ठानेका छौँ
environment,
त्यसैले
and your
यहाँहरूको
in
यो सहभागिताले हामीलाई अगाडि
participation
बढ्न
is
प्रेरित गर्छ
also
भन्ने विश्वास
important,
लिएका छौँ
and
धेरै धन्यवाद
your participation will also encourage us. Thank you so much.
धन्यवाद माननीयज्यू मलाई लाग्छ हजुरले त्यो बजेट कोडिङ लाई चाहिँ व्यवहारमै लाने भन्ने
Thank
कुरालाई चाहिँ
you.
इम्फसाइज गर्नुभएको छ
And
समितिमा
I
पनि
think
अस्तिको छलफलमा
you want to
बिस्तारै यो
implement budget
अपर्दा
coding
भनौँ न
system, and
नयाँको
in
बजेटहरू
the last
सिस्टम चाहिँ
discussion
बढ्दै जाने
also,
अनि
and
त्यसले
also you raised
प्रतिबद्धता भन्दा
this
पनि स्वेच्छाचारिता लाई
like
प्रश्रय दिने हो कि भन्ने जुन हजुरकै नेतृत्वको समितिमा पनि अस्ति अवसर पाएँ त्यो
in
बडो
your
महत्त्वपूर्ण कुरा
committee
हो
last
र
time I
हजुरले जुन
got the
यो 64
opportunity, and
वर्षको
this
समिति
is
छ
very
हजुरहरूकै
important
समिति
thing,
जुन अब 50
and
सम्म पुग्न गइरहेको छ
the
मलाई लाग्छ नेपालमा
committee would
एसडिजीको क्षेत्रमा जनप्रतिनिधि र खास गरेर हजुरहरूको
publish that
भूमिकालाई
review,
त्यो बडो गहिनताका साथ लिनुहुन्छ
and
आशा गर्छु त्यो प्रतिवेदन पनि
I
चाँडै
hope
सार्वजनिक होस्
that
र
report
यति
gets
भन्दै
published
मैले हाम्रो अर्को राउन्डमा
publicly very soon.
गएँ
And
समयका कुरा
now
गर्दै
I'm
मैले अब
turning to another round,
चारजना
considering the time
प्यानलिस्टहरूले
available.
चारवटा डिफ्रेन्ट
Now,
पर्सपेक्टिभले आफ्नो कुराहरू
four
राख्नुभयो होइन
panelists have
एक्जिक्युटिभ प्लानिङदेखि लिएर अब यसको इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको
expressed in
पार्टमा
four different
खास गरेर
perspectives.
कसरी
Now,
चाहिँ
in
भइरहेछ
the part of
स्थानीय तह अनि
implementation,
प्रदेश
how
अनि त्यसमा
is
सङ्घ
it
संस्थाहरूको भूमिका
progressing
अनि
at
यो
local
दुइटैलाई जोड्ने
level, and
सरकारको प्रयासहरू
local
तिनवटा
government
मुख्य
and
प्रश्नहरूको
civil
सेरोफेरोमा गएर
society? And
अबको
let's
पाँचवटा
talk about
संक्षिप्त प्रस्तुति चाहिँ लिन्छौँ मलाई थाहा छ 2
uh,
मिनट काफी चाहिँ होइन तर
let's talk about it.
एकाका
I
लागि
know
2 मिनट
2 minutes is
भने
not
चाहिँ अलि
enough.
धेरै कुरा कभर गर्न सकिन्छ
However,
सो
if
त्यसलाई
we
सम्मान
can
गर्दै मैले
uh,
सुरुवात गरेँ हाम्रो मेयर
cover
साहब
each of us on
मण्डलज्यू
different
मन्टेली
aspects of
नगरपालिका
it, we can cover
मध्य
it.
प्रदेश
Now
हजुरको
we
मठ्यानी
like to
नगरपालिका
call
इन्डियाको
the
बोर्डरसँग
mayor
जोडिएको
of
पालिका हो
Matihani
र यसले
municipality. It is
बडा
connected
युनिक पर्सपेक्टिभ
to
चाहिँ हजुरहरूले
India
जान्नु भएको छैन
border,
त्यसले बडा
and
युनिक पर्सपेक्टिभ चाहिँ राख्छ
and
लास्ट इयर भर्खर मात्र यो आगो
it
लागिले
has
गर्दा
a good
उहाँहरूलाई
perspective
त्यहाँका
because of
जनताहरू र उहाँहरूको प्राथमिकतामा
the
धेरै चाहिँ यसले प्रभाव पार्यो
fire
र त्यो
spread
कुरालाई ध्यानमा
to
राख्दै
that
म
area.
सरलाई
It affected a
2 मिनटमा
lot
आफ्नो कुरा राख्नलाई
to
मैले
the
विनम्र
people there,
अनुरोध
and
गरेँ मेयर साहब
I like
हजुर
to
आउँछु
give the
मैले हात
floor for two
आवश्यकता पर्यो
minutes.
अत्यन्त इमर्जेन्सी पर्यो भने निस्किनलाई अनुमति पनि मागौँ कि भनेर
पाइन्छ पाइन्छ
हस्
हजुर त्यस्तै हो भने हस्
Would
थ्याङ्क यू
like to ask permission if
मेयर साहब
something
हजुरलाई
needed. Can I
नमस्कार
be excused? And yes,
वास्तवमा हामी महोत्तरी जिल्लाको मध्य
thank you.
नगरपालिकासँगपछि भारतको बिहार राज्यको मधुबनी जिल्लाको हामी जोडिएको यो पालिका
This Mahottari municipality is connected to the Bihar state of India,
र यो
and
समस्याहरूको कुरा गर्दा चाहिँ
this
हामीले
local
स्थानीय सरकारको
government,
एजेन्सीको रूपमा दिगो विकासका लक्ष्यहरू कार्यान्वयन गर्न हाम्रा समुदायहरूमा सामाजिक समावेशी गर्न
to implement the
प्रवर्तनहरूलाई
SDG
अग्रपन्थीमा
goals in our
ल्याउँछौँ।
society. We are committed,
आज हामी यस महत्त्वपूर्ण
and today,
प्रयासहरूमा हाम्रा प्रयासहरू चुनौतीहरू र प्रगतिलाई
what are
हामी
our
यहाँ बयान
challenges?
गरिरहेका
What
छौँ।
are our efforts?
हालको सङ्घीय
I like to
चुनावमा
share.
लागू भएदेखि स्थानीय सरकारको महत्त्वपूर्ण जिम्मेवारीहरू लिएका छौँ हामी। हामी
We
हाम्रो
have
मिलित
taken
समुदायहरूको
more
आवश्यकताहरू चिन्न र
responsibilities.
सम्बोधन गर्न सक्रिय रूपमा हामी क्रियाशील रहन्छौँ। जसले
We are
हामीलाई
active
कुनै पनि
towards
कसैलाई
the SDGs.
नछोडेको सुनिश्चित गर्न रूपमा हामी हेर्दछौँ। र
We
सामाजिक
would not be
समावेशीकरण
left behind
प्रवर्धन गर्न हामीले
to promote the
नीति कार्यक्रमहरू लागू
in
गरेका
promoting
छौँ।
social
उदाहरणका लागि
inclusion. We have
विभिन्न
implemented
मन्त्रालयहरूले स्थानीय
targeted
निकायका
policies and
निर्णयहरू गर्दा
programs,
निकायहरूमा महिला र उनीहरूको
and we have
समूहहरूको लागि कोटा ल्याएका छन्। हामीले पिछडिएका समुदायहरूको
promoted the
आर्थिक विकास
efforts to bring the marginalized groups, the
गरेका छौँ
women groups,
र
and
मूल रूपमा
we have
चाहिँ
launched
जनताहरूका
programs
नागरिकहरूको लागि सामाजिक सुरक्षा
and
कोष लगायतका विभिन्न प्रयासहरू हामीले गरिरहेका छौँ।
social
र धेरै
security
ठुलो हामीलाई
uh,
चुनौतीहरूको चाहिँ सामना गरि नै
to
रहेछौँ।
make it available. We have
र
been
प्राविधिक
trying,
भनौँ न क्षमताले
and
व्यापक एसडिजी सम्बन्ध कार्यक्रमहरू कार्यान्वयन गर्नलाई
and
यो क्षमतालाई
we have many extensive
बढावा पुग्नेछ।
programs
यी
that
अवरोधहरूको
focus
बावजुद
the
हामी
SDGs,
प्रगति
and
पथमा छौँ।
we have
धेरै स्थानीय तह र निकायहरूले
obstacles.
धेरै
However,
सरकारी योजनाहरूमा
we are
SDGs
making progress.
प्रयुक्त गरेका छन्। हामी सेवा
Many
प्रदान
local
गर्ने
governments have
प्रगतिको
integrated
प्रयोग गर्दछौँ।
SDGs into our
विशेष
periodic
गरी
plans,
नगरपालिकाहरूले अहिले जन्मदाता
and
संस्था लगायतका
the
अनलाइन प्रणालीहरू पनि
municipality
ल्याइरहेका छन्।
also
यसले
uh,
नागरिकलाई
making
मतदाता
the
पहुँच
birth
बढेको देख्छ।
certificate
र
application
नेपालका
available
स्थानीय
online,
निकायहरूले
and to the
एसडिजिएसलाई साकार पार्न र सामाजिक समावेशीकरण प्रवर्धन गर्नलाई
promote
मेन
social
हामीलाई
inclusion.
चुनौतीहरू छन्। तर पनि
We
चुनौतीहरू
have
धेरै स्थानीय र अर्थमा
some
सरकारी
challenges
परिवर्तनकारी
still.
परिवर्तनको संवादताको बारेमा हामी सहभागी छौँ। मूलत
We have
एकदमै
been discussing,
हेर्दाखेरि हामीले
and about
धेरै कुराहरू
this.
केही समय
It has been,
हामीलाई बितेको
we have been
क्षेत्रमा
trying
वर्षौँको
for
समय
a long time,
गर्ने काम
and
गरिरहँदा पनि हामीले जनतालाई दिनुपर्ने सेवा र सुविधाहरूलाई
whatever the
लक्ष्य मूल्याङ्कनमा
services
राखेर
needs to be
चाहिँ
given to the
सेवा
people, we
प्रवाहहरू
have
अगाडि बढाइरहेका
kept
छौँ।
them at
र यो
priority,
रूपमा
and we
कुनै
are
नीति
moving
तथा
forward.
सरकारहरूमध्ये
And
स्थानीय
out
निकायलाई
of the
चाहिँ धेरै
three
शास्तिहरू पुर्याउनु पर्ने पनि अवस्थाहरू हुन्छ।
levels of
त्यसलाई पनि हामीले
government,
सामना गरिरहेका
local
छौँ।
level
त्यो
government
हुन्छ
has
अहिले
to suffer
चाहिँ हामीले
or work more,
कुरा
and
सुन्दाखेरि पनि सबैले
um,
एक किसिमले
when we
त्यसमा चाहिँ आफ्नो
hear
आवश्यकता
about
समेत छ। तर
all
त्यस
these
विकासको लागि चाहिँ
complaints,
हामीले सोचेका साथ
uh,
सरकारको चाहिँ
धन्यवाद
we
सहायता हुनु जरुरी
for
हुन्छ।
SDGs, it is
थ्याङ्क यू
important,
धेरै
and we
धेरै
have realized it.
धन्यवाद मेयर साहब हजुरलाई
Thank you.
ग्राउन्ड जिरोमा बसेर काम गर्दा 2 मिनट त काफी होइन तर मलाई लाग्छ यो
I know 2 minutes is not enough for you when you work at the ground level, and
माननीय सदस्य श्री मनिष सुमनज्यूलाई अनुरोध गरे
like to invite Honorable
उसले
Manish
आफ्नो रिफ्लेक्सन 2 मिनेटमा राख्दिनु अनुरोध गरिनु मान्यज्यू
धन्यवाद हजुर धन्यवाद राकेश जी आदरणीय
Rakesh ji, Honorable Prime Minister of Sweden, and to all the participants.
ग्रामीण जनसङ्ख्याको बाहुल्यता भएको सबैभन्दा सघन जनसङ्ख्या भएको प्रदेशको रूपमा मधेसले धेरै प्रमुख
SDG province located in the southern province of Nepal, and it has unique challenges, and Madhes has been focusing on several key SDG areas: poverty alleviation and food security. And given its agricultural landscape, the province has likely prioritized improving farming techniques and health and education. Efforts to enhance access to quality healthcare and education, particularly for marginalized communities, has been crucial. Then gender equality, addressing deeply rooted social norms to promote women's empowerment and equal opportunities, has been a focus area. Then clean water and sanitation, managing water resources and improving sanitation infrastructure. Then economic growth, leveraging its proximity to India, the province has been working on strengthening cross-border trade and industrial development. To accelerate SDG programs, Madhya province has likely been focusing on flood management, agricultural modernization, social inclusion, like including Madhesi, Dalits, Muslims, and they are all included in developmental efforts. Then fourth point is cross-border cooperation, leveraging its position along the Indian border for economic opportunities while addressing challenges like human trafficking. And while Madhya province faces challenges such as frequent natural disasters, social inequalities, infrastructure gaps, the collaborative effort of various stakeholders provide a foundation for progress. The province's fertile land, strategic location, and growing focus on inclusive development offer potential for accelerated achievement of the SDGs. Thank you so much.
संघीयताको लागि प्रदेश सरकारको भूमिकामा आफ्नो एडभोकेसी जारी
This
राख्न
government has
जनताहरूप्रतिको गम्भीरतालाई पनि ध्यानमा राखेर
been playing strong roles, and
प्रदेश सभामा
in the provincial assembly you have raised those issues, and for that I like to appreciate it. Thank you. And to move the discussion forward, like to call Honorable Ram Subedi, and he is chair of NGO Federation of Nepal. I like to allocate 2 minutes, try to give him. It's your floor. We can see your photo, however, could not hear you. We will consider 2 minutes.
Please
I
put
have
your
seen
questions or comments in the Q&A chat box and we'll respond. Thank you. Ram sir, हजुरको आवाज सुनिएन, so I go with Dr. S.P. Kaloni, who is the chair of International INGOs in Nepal, and you have 2 minutes, sir, and then we'll continue with Mr. Ram Subedi. Over to you, Dr. Sir.
Sure, thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister and all dignitaries. Speaking of the inclusive implementation of SDGs in Nepal, to ensure that country achieves the set targets, in addition to the resources required, I think two questions are crucial. The first one is people's understanding. I think we need to look at whether people, especially the population segment that needs uplifting, is aware of the SDG goals and targets. If not, it is like a situation where the adult students in the class do not know they should pass their exam, and the teachers have tasks to help them pass. So I think ownership of the beneficiaries is really important, as we cannot achieve change without meaningful participation. And the second question is related to grassroots governance. I think we need to look at if we have emphasized enough the crucial role of the grassroots tier of the government in achieving SDG targets. Have the ward members and chairpersons understood and prioritized sustainable development goals as much as the National Planning Commission? We need to look at, we need to work on this as the real change happens at the grassroots level. So if we talk about the Association of International INGOs that I represent in Nepal, international NGOs in Nepal, one of our key goals is to support government of Nepal in achieving SDGs. Our 112 member organizations are helping the government of Nepal with all 17 goals. Goal number 1, 3, 4, 5, and 13, which focus on poverty reduction, health, education, gender equality, and climate action, are the goals which most of our member organizations are contributing to. Since Nepal also plans to graduate from LDC soon, and the country has endorsed the Pact for the Future, I think it is important for country to prepare a transitional plan from now until after 2030 timeline. We will continue as a network of international organizations in Nepal, together with the government of Nepal, and look forward to celebrating Nepal's achievement in the days ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Colin. I think this is a great presentation, especially in light of Nepal is aiming to graduate to middle income country by November 2026. I think you play a very crucial role in making sure that the international organizations bring value in terms of money and technological transfer. So thank you. Ram sir, हजुर को नेट को इश्यू रिजल्भ भयो? मैले राम सरलाई सुनिनँ. So for the sake of time, I'd like to invite Mr. Manoj Bhatta, who is the member secretary of Social Welfare Council, the government body to coordinate international and national non-government organization to work to support national government policy priorities in terms of development. So over to you, Manoj sir. 2 minutes, please.
Thank you so much. Mr. Prime Minister, distinguished panelists and colleagues, on behalf of Social Welfare Council of Nepal, I am pleased to share our efforts in facilitating and coordinating the work of NGOs to support social inclusion and accelerate the progress on the sustainable development in Nepal. As Social Welfare Council serves as the key coordinating body between the government of Nepal and international and the national NGOs working in the country. We are responsible for promoting, facilitating, coordinating, monitoring, and evaluating the activities of international NGOs and the national NGOs. For your kind information, we have been able to renew the affiliation of the 4,335 NGOs and INGOs and have signed the project worth $1.4 billion for last 3 fiscal years. We are committed to mobilizing resources, fostering multi-stakeholder partnerships to accelerate sustainable development progress. Our efforts include facilitating coordination between government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and the partners to align efforts within national sustainable development goal priorities. Promoting inclusive development by focusing on marginalized groups and ensuring no one is left behind. Building capacity of stakeholders at the national, provincial and local levels to effectively contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals implementation. Just finally, Social Welfare Council remains dedicated to creating an enabling environment for NGOs and fostering collaborating among all sectors to accelerate Nepal's progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goal by 2030. So the role of Social Welfare Council within the Social Welfare Act, Article 12 and 16 are the vital to accelerate the sustainable development goal in Nepal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manoj sir. I think this is a great news that you have been able to coordinate 1.4 billion USD in line with the national priority, and I think this is a critical information and resources, especially when Nepal struggles to maintain the basic expenditure. So thank you very much. For the sake of time, I again call upon Mr. Ram Subedi. Ram sir, Azur Unon. Okay, so we will have to organize another event to hear from him. For now, there are certain questions, and I like to forward. So one is very specific to Dr. Coloni. How can we make sure that marginalized people have access to knowledge about SDG? Is there anything you can say in 30 seconds, sir?
We'll try. I may not have all the answers, but I think we already have a planning process put in place, the local level planning process. I think one pertinent step that we should and can take is including or participating the local people, the communities in the planning process, where we not only talk about what we need, but also bring to surface the SDG goals and the targets in the planning process. That way, it will not only be informative for the communities and the marginalized people especially, but also for people to own that process and think about, okay, this is what we are looking at achieving and how can we do that together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And there is one question about NPC reducing the SDG indicator. Did Nepal have not monitoring and evaluation mechanism before adding to it? I quickly respond, like Madam Gita already reflected the reason why this was reduced from 479 or 94 to 301 based on the monitoring and evaluation mechanism or framework instilled within the NPC. So I suggest if you go to SDG website, you can see the list of indicators and also the BNR report where you can see the mechanism behind this. The last, I think this is a very important one for now, for the sake of the time. The question about SDG, environmental and social and governance regulations for corporates, and how to make sure that these solutions can be addressed and also provide the job opportunity. So maybe we can, this is one thing, Mr. Prime Minister, I think from Sweden, I think you have very stringent regulations on the corporate sector and making sure that they benefit out of it, but they are also community and environmental and governance issue to maintain. So I think I forward this to Prime Minister, and then this is also an opportunity, Mr. Prime Minister, to give your closing remarks. I'm sorry, I cannot entertain all the questions, but over to you, Prime Minister.
Let me see now. Just to be sure, you wanted me to give the closing remarks now, yes? Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And if
Thank you.
If you can also,
sorry.
And if you can also quickly, yes, Prime Minister, and if you can also quickly respond how in Sweden the corporate sector are mindful of the environmental and social cause. Okay. So that will be very great reference as well. Thank you, sir.
Beginning with the corporate sector, we have tried, when I was Prime Minister, we included also the private sector, the business sector into this, the planning and the implementation of the SDGs. So as an example, when it comes to the climate transition and the climate change, we made it possible to implement 22 different programs in different sectors of the business sector. So steel industry, cement, car building, and all that. They, in a multi-stakeholder perspective, developed their own plans how to move on towards a climate-friendly society. And again, this doesn't mean that Sweden is perfect, but I think that this multi-stakeholder perspective is important, and of course other things as well. So I must say, when I listen to the interventions, first, thank you everybody for your contributions. I've learned a lot. I've listened with great interest, and I can see, as I also read before, in the report, that of course you have made progress in reducing poverty, but also the economic growth, which is important in enabling a society to distribute welfare. But as we all know, economic growth is not everything. It's important, but then comes the very important perspective of distribution. You also say that the inequality still is there. It's nothing that you can deal with just in a few years. You have to be persistent. And I think the inequality, the growing inequality, actually is a problem all over the world, also in Sweden, in the Nordic countries, in Europe, all over the world. And we have to address it because it divides the world, it divides countries, it divides societies, and that is a very, very dangerous path. So we have to keep a focus, keep an eye on the inequality, and make sure that we can change that development. I can clearly hear what you say. Your opportunities is fostering partnerships and collaboration. I fully agree with that. Inclusivity is the key. So when I listen to you, you have targeted intervention. You try to decentralize the decision-making, which is important. I think what I've heard during this conference is a showcase of very important ingredients going forward with the SDG. Some of them are the structure, the systematic work that has to be done is nothing we can just express a wish, an ambition, and then let things just happen. We have to structure it, be very, very systematic. You have adapted to your country's conditions, first increasing the number of indicators to 479, if I took right note of that intervention. So you have adapted it, but you're also flexible going forward, which is the third important ingredients. So structure, adapting, being flexible. So you reduced the number of indicators to 301 because of unavailability of data, which shows another important ingredient. How do we measure? Can we measure when the SDG was adapted, United Nations, we gave one of our authorities in Sweden the clear task of making sure that we can measure everything we do so that we know how we are making progress or not. You have emphasized the multi-stakeholders perspective. I salute that. The multi-level perspective so that we can cooperate between the national, the regional, and the local level, extremely important. The people's understanding was underlined by the chair of the international NGOs, and that is key. That is absolutely key. How do we communicate with and keep that communication, the dialogue with people at the local level, because it is at the end of the day their daily lives that we want to improve. And if we can't do that, if we can't reach them, if we can't get that understanding, we haven't done good enough. So we have to keep that focus. I really commend that perspective. Two more things. Investments was pointed out by the Social Welfare Council, and it takes a lot of investment. We need to know where to invest. so that they can bring the SDGs forward. So those were a few perspectives that I saw, that I heard about, that I would say are important ingredients in an SDG process. Lastly, we need to now go forward even more strong and more convinced than ever to implement the SDGs, and then in a few years only, and perhaps already now, start thinking of what is beyond Agenda 2030, because the world won't be perfect in the year of 2030. We have to go just continue making sure that people can live good lives wherever they are, whoever they are. Once again, thank you so much for all the interventions. I just can say that I think what I've heard is a good example of a structured way of going forward with the SDGs. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. We look forward to welcoming you in Nepal soon. I think that's the best compliment I can give you as of now. I'd like to invite my colleague Gwen to say the vote of thanks and close this event. We are past 3 minutes to the schedule, so feel free to sign off if anyone has any important event. Over to you, Ruben, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Rakesh. And I would like to follow add my congratulatory remarks to the ones made by our member, Prime Minister Löfven, and saying that Clade Madrid has been delighted to collaborate with all of you in this process, and that we are following closely the Nepal's challenge and opportunities to overcome the obstacles that the rapid assessment that Rakesh has been developing on the performance on the Sustainable Development Goals are on the way. No, so we have seen in the discussions. So there are ways that can increase Nepal's pace in realizing these goals. Mainly integrating minority voices, consolidating achievements in the economy and in many other areas. That includes, as we have heard, combating poverty reduction and focusing on progress on health, education, infrastructures, and many others. No, so on this, Clade Madrid is willing and open to continue collaboration with the stakeholders in Nepal, and we look forward for this. And let me just close thanking you again for your participation, your involvement, not only today, but in the process of this initiative. And especially thanks to Rakesh for your leadership on this, and the Clade Madrid team behind the scenes at the logistic level and the program level that has been made this collaboration possible. Thank you very much. Namaskar.